Thank you for joining us for Proven in the Trenches, 11 Principles to Transform Your Firm's Future with Ron Carson and Jamie Hopkins from the Carson Group. I am Brendan Burnett, NAIFA's Director of Professional Development. And before we get started, a few details. We will be answering questions and chat at the end of the presentation. And it is now my pleasure to introduce NAIFA Treasurer and Managing Partner at Veritas Financial and the College Funding Coach, Brock Jolly.
Thanks, Brendan. Appreciate it. I see some people are filtering in here, so I want to be conscious of time, but maybe I'll start slowly. Just a couple of housekeeping items. For those of you, I know a lot of you, we had something like 1,300 people last week who were on the NAIFA Impact Week calls. And so I had a really awesome experience with our diversity symposium, the advocacy day, and our leadership day. So for those of you who were able to join us, really appreciate that. I hope that you, like me, got a lot out of it. And there's more to come with that. I will also tell you, if you haven't had an opportunity to check out the NAIFA town hall meetings with the likes of industry legends and experts, one of which is back for an encore performance today, Jamie Hopkins, visit belong.naifa.org to be able to check out some of those great webinars that we've done as the NAIFA town hall meeting. So, like anything, and I'm in the middle of reading Ron's latest book, and one of the things that Ron talks about is disruption. And there's been a lot of disruption in the industry and certainly in the association industry here lately. And so NAIFA's done a really great job of pivoting. Excited to have you here and sort of taking advantage of some of these silver linings that exist in our industry. So with that, just the format for today, I'm going to introduce Ron and Jamie. Jamie is actually going to do the heavy lifting. He's going to do the interviewing of Ron. Also, just pay attention, if you could, to the chat dialogue box and or the Q&A section of Zoom. Both of those can be found at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions that you want to ask of Ron or of Jamie, please feel free to put those in the chat dialogue box. I'll do my best to monitor that, and Jamie will ask the questions, and then we'll circle back at the end, and I'll close us out on any questions that we have from the audience. So with that, I will get started with our formal introductions. So I'm going to start with introducing Ron. Ron is the founder and CEO of Carson Group, which serves financial advisors and investors through its businesses, including Carson Wealth, Carson Coaching, and Carson Partners. Founded in 1983, Carson Wealth has grown to become one of the largest wealth management firms in the country, offering portfolio management and wealth planning services to high net worth clients. Now, in advisory circles, Ron really needs no introduction. He's written 4 books, including Tested in the Trenches. I unfortunately, being quarantined at home, I don't have all 4 here, but Tested in the Trenches, Avalanche, The Sustainable Edge, and what I'm reading currently and is right there on your screen, Proven in the Trenches. His firm manages over $12 billion in assets. I think that number may even be a little low right now. His coaching programs have helped nearly 1,500 advisors build better practices and impact families by following Ron's systematized approach to building and running a financial planning practice. He's a Barron's Hall of Fame advisor, regularly listed as one of Forbes' top wealth advisors, and has built one of the fastest growing private companies in America. Ron currently serves on the board of trustees of the American College of Financial Services. He regularly appears in major print and television media such as the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, Forbes, and of course, NAIFA's own Advisor Today magazine. What I think is super cool is that among many, many charitable endeavors, Ron and his wife Jeannie founded the Dreamweaver Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to fulfilling end-of-life dreams for seniors with terminal illnesses. Ron and Jeannie reside in Omaha and have 3 grown children. He enjoys spending time with his family, collecting and drinking wine, golfing, flying, pheasant hunting, and he's an avid Nebraska Cornhusker fan. So hopefully we get into some college football sooner rather than later. One of my favorite Ron Carson quotes is, "Live life by design, not by default." And Ron really lives this every single day. His passion for this business and for serving clients better, more holistically, and more efficiently makes it easy to understand why he has built the empire he has. Not bad for a guy who started his business by hawking insurance out of his dorm room at the University of Nebraska. So, secondly, I want to introduce Jamie Hopkins. Much like Ron, if you've been around this industry for any length of time, you know Jamie's name. Jamie is the managing director of Carson Coaching and director of retirement research at Carson Group. He's a nationally recognized writer, researcher, educator, contributor to all the magazines and publications that we all read. Prior to joining Carson, Jamie was the co-director of the New York Life Center for Retirement Income and a professor in the Retirement Income Program at the American College of Financial Services. And he was really, really instrumental in the development of some of the designations that he has, but probably most notably the RICP program. One thing that I think is pretty cool about Jamie is that he was selected both by Investment News and by the American Bar Association as one of the top 40 under 40 in those respective categories. He's got a BA from Davidson, a JD from Villanova, and an LLM from Temple University. He is what some of you know the name Tom Brinker from the American College, and he's what Tom Brinker would call an FON, and that is a friend of NAIFA. Jamie's done a lot of things, spoken on a lot of NAIFA stages, and so certainly is no stranger to this audience. So with that, I'll pipe down. Really, really excited to have you guys here. I'm going to turn it over to Jamie and Ron to get us started. I've heard both of these guys speak more times than I can count, and I'm excited to have them both here today. The content you're about to receive will definitely change your practice, might even change your life. So with that, please give a warm NAIFA welcome to Ron Carson and Jamie Hopkins. Jamie, I see you're muted, so make sure you get unmuted here before we kick things off.
Thank you for having us. And I just wanted to point out, Jamie went to Villanova and those places just because he couldn't get into Nebraska. But we're working on it, Jamie. So
clearly.
Yeah, it's my lifelong dream. But yeah, a fantastic intro, and I've got a couple I will run through, and then we'll kind of get into Ron, as we said, really building a lot of this in an interview-style format around the new book, and some of the principles that Ron's used in his practice, our firms, our partner firms. The first thing, which is really, our pitch of the day, which is really just to talk about Carson Coaching. It was part of the beginning. The story is great. It goes back to 1993 when Ron was asked 3 times in a week, right, if you had coaching, and then eventually the answer was yes. And as Brock mentioned, we coach about 1,500 advisors currently today out there. So if you're interested in that, reach out. We'd love to tell you more about our coaching, how we can help transform your business with an executive business coach or through our online content. We've made this about as easy as possible now to learn more about it, right? You can literally do that from your phone while sitting here. If you text the number 44222 and you text Carson Coaching to it, that's all you have to do. So take that first step, reach out, find out more about Carson Coaching, what we do to help transform your business into the next thing that you want it to be. I started off a presentation yesterday with this concept about community. And when I was, just putting together some quick slides here for guidance of our conversation, I decided to put these in. And part of it kind of resonated yesterday, and being with NAIFA here today, NAIFA is a community, right? And that's one of these first things, right, is what is a community? It's this connected group of individuals by one or more attributes. The reality is the people here today, the people part of NAIFA, it's really more than one, right? We have thousands probably of attributes that are similar. And, Ron might even talk about this, how lucky you are to be an advisor, to be in financial services, right, and have those attributes. It really is an amazing community, right? Ron, do you want to do that little piece, about how great it is to be where we are today?
Yeah, well, and I love it because that's how I feel about just how fortunate all of us are. I tell prospective people, or even I talk quite a few to students that are thinking about getting into this business. And I said, it's like picking up 5 Powerball tickets, and they're all winning tickets, and all you got to do is cash them. And the first Powerball we all won is we were born a mammal. And then, the second as we were as a human, third, living in the United States of America, fourth, in financial services, and fifth, at the most disruptive, opportunistic time that our profession has ever had. And but all you got to do is decide to cash those tickets in. And never have I seen more opportunities to grow, help people, and succeed. Also, I've never seen as many distractions that can cause you to get going down rabbit holes, things that aren't value added to you, to your stakeholders, to the clients we serve. And so it's a challenging time, but it also is just filled with opportunity for those that have the energy to work and hit it with full enthusiasm every day.
So one of the next things, I think about community, and you're going to hear from Ron today on this, right? Proven in the trenches, proven. And this is one of the reasons why I've kind of decided or come to, and why community is so important. It's a quote. I tend to do this with quotes. I kind of modify them a little bit for myself, but there's a version of this out there, and I kind of changed it to, I know I can because you did. And that's one of the things I want, everyone here to take away from listening to Ron, right? What Ron's going to talk about when we actually get to the interview part are things that actually worked, right? It's not things that could work in the future, but proven in the trenches, things that our firms, Ron's used before, that are proven to work. And that's the important part of being, in a community like Carson Coaching, like NAIFA. You learn from others who have succeeded. So then you can overcome these things, right? You can overcome fear, uncertainty, pain, loss, all those things your clients are running into at this point too. And the other part about being in community is, helping to define who you want to be, who you are, your why. There's a great quote out there too about you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I really like that one. It sounds really great. It's probably not exactly true, but it is still this notion about you surround yourself, you spend time with the people you want to be like. I actually found this literally just yesterday. I kind of searched, as a researcher, I wanted to see how true is that? Well, interestingly, actually, your network is a lot broader than 5 people. It's, today you have great people. I thought this was really interesting. A friend of your friend, so 3 removed from you, if they gain weight, you're 10% more likely to gain weight than by random chance. That's so interesting because it says how broad and how important your community is for everything. And I told people this yesterday. I've lost 13 pounds in quarantine so far. So this is really good news for you because you now have a higher likelihood chance to lose weight by knowing me. So you're welcome on that one. So hopefully that goes well for you. But it just, again, gets back to community and surrounding yourself with the people you want to be around. Now, this is something that Ron's talked about before, and I'll let Ron, you kind of run with this here, which is the 100-year company. So you've gone out and said that a lot, and I think it's a really important thing. So building something that lasts. And when you say you want to build a 100-year company, or I should say you are building a 100-year company, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, and this hit me, Jamie, a couple of years ago. I'm part of a couple of, for lack of a better term, study groups. And RIAs, some smaller, some larger than mine. But the one thing that, one of the topics came up about, what do you see the long-term vision of your organization? And everybody in both groups were building it to monetize it. And I said, no, I knew I wasn't building to monetize it. I was building it for the long term. And, you look at a company like Fidelity, and the family at Fidelity, I mean, they make really long-term decisions, and because they know, they're going to be around for a long time. And the same thing is true, with Carson. We're taking the lead in Omaha. We have an office campus. We're making a major commitment, to growing our own, bringing in the next generation advisor, our rotational internship programs. These things have a very, very long payback. We may not see a return on some of those investments for a decade or more. And also, I think, in an environment where you never know who's going to acquire who, you look at United Capital being acquired by Goldman Sachs, you see, Schwab and TD, and where is it actually in? And one of the commitments I've made to my internals, we don't have employees at Carson. They're internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. Everybody has a stake. To my internal stakeholders and partners, external stakeholders, that, we're not going to go down that route. So when you join, you're joining something that's going to, probably be around for your entire life and your kid's life, and probably, maybe even your grandchildren's life. And I think that gives people a lot of certainty that we're able to think differently than someone that may have a shorter time horizon. And I'm really proud, because I think we're one of the very, very few firms out there that's truly committed to this. And our mission is ultimately to be the most trusted for financial advice. I mean, it's so simplistic, but it's so powerful. If you do a random, consumer survey today, nobody owns that space. Fidelity has it in the retirement plan space. Vanguard probably has it in the low-cost mutual fund space. But nobody really. Matter of fact, we have not done a great job as a profession of really building trust with the consumer. 65% of Americans still do not trust that their advisor and the company they represent is going to put their interest ahead of their own. And that's something we're committed to changing.
Yeah, and when you talk about change, Ron, we had a great conversation about this yesterday. Also just this never let a good crisis go to waste, I think, is what Mark Cassidy said yesterday too. But part of this is change, right? You had Tested in the Trenches, which probably a lot of people here have read, and I know that there was a time period when we were writing, you were working on Proven in the Trenches, getting that together. That you were like, you need to read that one, maybe not all the stuff from the old one, right? So things changed, right? So from Tested to Proven, I'd say, what are some of the things you learned? And I think you said yesterday, right, that obviously the last 6 months have been a learning time period too.
Yeah, well, in the original book, it's actually, this is our 5th book, Proven in the Trenches. The original was 2005. And so, TNT, the New Era Advisor, which you see there on the left, came out with that. And really, some things had changed, but, maybe 20% of it was really interesting and original content. But then Proven in the Trenches, it's like I had people coming up to me, and they're still that, if you can go to Amazon, you can still buy that old original book. And they're telling me, hey, I just read it and I'm building my business off of it. And I go, well, don't do that, because a lot of that, we haven't printed a new version of that in, at least probably 12 years, 13 years. And a lot has changed. And one of my favorite sayings is, don't defend what you know and what you're comfortable with, embrace the unknown. We talk about the book, the importance of IQ, implementation quotient, getting stuff done. When it's all said and done, a lot more gets said than gets done. So if we can just get stuff done, we're ahead of most. But now we also have to introduce AQ, adaptability quotient, because none of us on this call can possibly anticipate all the cool changes, technologies, and some not so cool, like COVID hitting and all of us having to work remotely and how we communicate with our clients. And so when we came out with Proven in the Trenches, this is completely, a ton of new material. I'm going to say it's 80%, different than the 2005 version. And then I narrated the book, which came out last week on Audible during COVID. So, there's a lot of new info. If you want the most recent version, because this book took 18 months to write, and then COVID hit while I was narrating it. So there's a ton of bonus material in there. But you're right, Jamie, the shelf life of, there's some things that, never change. There's some core and human behaviors that don't change. And we talk about the original book, and they're still true with Proven in the Trenches. But, the landscape of financial services has changed dramatically. It used to be around, and most of you can appreciate this. Hey, if you just had a relationship with somebody, they liked you, they trusted you. Today, you need to be providing value beyond a doubt. People don't want to pay a fee. They want to make an investment in their future. And they're willing to make an investment in the future as long as they can see it, measure it, and know and feel the value that they're actually receiving. And we go into a lot of detail around that in Proven in the Trenches.
Yeah, we'll show kind of the outline of the book here in a second, the kind of 11 principles that is outlaid in the book to transform your firm's future. And so here's the 11, and that's kind of the title of the presentation. I shortened these down. Some of them are actually a little bit better written in the actual book, which is sitting in front of me here too. But going through, right, the modern investor, blueprinting your business, attracting, retaining top talent, put the process behind your people, marketing, that building a brand, wealth planning and advisor value, creating a compelling client experience, evaluating partnerships, ethical persuasion, right? How to attract new clients in an ethical way, succession planning, and the shift from advisor to CEO. My thought was, yes, we'll kind of lay out these 11 here, but I'd like to get deep in probably 4 of them. So I kind of blew out 4 a little bit because in an hour, it's actually pretty tough to get deep on 11 different topics, but kind of outlining where they are. And then I wanted to start with this one because I think right now, in this COVID time period, right, retention of people is a really big topic, right? It's not even just a financial service topic, it's a world topic. How do we retain and maintain our businesses through this time? So I think that has, multiple things that are just very timely for, probably every single person here. And then how do we attract new talent? I mean, there's going to be opportunities when you come out of a crisis like this too. So Ron, let's just start there with the, what do you kind of go through when you've now grown a business, you add a lot more talent than at one point you did. I remember you talking about that with me at one point. There's all these people you'd like to have, but you can't have them all day one.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, and Jamie, you're a great example of attracting top talent. I made lots of mistakes in my career. I continue to make lots of mistakes, and I view failure as simply a learning experience. But I really hit this area of my business where I really wasn't growing. I wasn't having a heck of a lot of fun. And one of my clients here in Omaha, self-made billionaire. I took him to lunch, and by the way, he didn't even start his business till he was about my age, 55 years old, and he's in his 80s today. But he said, Ron, I go, what's the one thing that most led to your success? And he said, hire the best people you can find and get the heck out of their way. And then he elaborated a little bit and said, you're going to run into people that just really impress you, and those people are hard to find. So if you can't afford them now, make a file, write their name down, and then go after them when you can afford them. And Jamie, the first time I ever met Jamie at the college, I was like, man, this guy's a doer. I've got my president, I got him involved with the college. He formed even a better, deeper relationship with Jamie because they were about the same age. Maybe Jamie might be a little older than Aaron, but this was a great example, living example of attracting really good people. And getting out of their way sounds easy. It's hard. You build a business, you're an entrepreneur. I hear all the time from my age group, it's like these kids, they want everything tomorrow. They don't know what it is to work like we did. And I'm thinking, man, you're missing the point. The next generation of advisor, the Jamies and the Judds and the Aarons and the Terrys on our team, yeah, they have different ways of doing it, 10 times better than I could ever dream of. And what's really cool, Jamie, about attracting, and I think you can feel this through the Carson culture, is people today, especially the young professionals, they're driven not solely by money. Yeah, they want to be paid and compensated fairly, but they're driven by net meaning, net return on meaning, the kind of work I'm doing, the kind of difference I'm making. And boy, if you have that kind of environment, that kind of culture, and you allow people to really be, entrepreneurial, with their ideas. And there's another saying we have at Carson is, I'd rather for you to ask forgiveness than permission. If don't sit around and making a decision. If you think you need to make a decision, make it. And then as far as retaining people, I think you need to work on, everybody needs to be a culture agent. You need to continuously work on culture. It is the most important thing. And, part of retaining top talent is really the onboarding process, and really being selective about the rest. A person's an ingredient in the elixir of, the organization. So you're going to be very careful who you bring in. We'd rather have nobody in a position than the wrong person in a position. And then once you've got that person, the first 3 weeks, an intense onboarding where there's a lot of interaction, very clear, direction of what they do, and what the expectations are, has been proven. Those first 3 weeks, if they're successful, will really drive how long someone actually stays with an organization.
And so, Ron, this actually came up yesterday in a conversation we were having with some coaching members, which was about that really taking this opportunity also to cross-train your stakeholders, employees. because, if you lose somebody right now and you realize all of a sudden that they did payroll and nobody else was trained in payroll, right? You're in trouble, right? So that's actually a process and a system you had built into coaching originally, and a lot of our coaching members have used that. But that's an important part of the retaining. So any tips that you would express on that, even just using today as an opportunity?
Yeah, no, I mean, cross training is key. The reason we don't do it's not just cross training. I'm a pilot, right? And so, I have to go to school once a year to prove that I'm still proficient. And I can tell you that if I don't use it, even for a month or two, I lose my proficiency. And so, it's not just cross training and being done with it, but it's actually allowing people to function in that role periodically so they can stay proficient. But that can become a challenge, Jamie. I started off as me, and I had one part-time person, then I had one full-time person. And my very, very first person, her name was Avis, believe it or not. And old Avis, she did everything, right? And then, Avis, we brought somebody else on, and pretty soon we're at 3. It's really hard to cross-train because everybody is so doggone busy. So it's a luxury that you want to have. And sometimes you do have to slow down so you can actually speed up and protect your business. Like you said, you don't want to have, I was sharing, I met a gentleman not too long ago who is in the shipping business in Seattle. And this guy had written this computer program for him that was really the core of of how they shipped everything. This guy actually left unexpectedly, had something, personal happen in his life, and it about bankrupt his business. I mean, that's an extreme example, but they didn't have anybody else that had the knowledge or the keys, to actually operate something that was, core to running their business. So, cross-training is, and I think people enjoy the fact that there's other opportunities. One thing we say at Carson, and we're big enough now we can do this, is if you're ever getting bored or you're not feeling fulfilled, don't go somewhere else. Come to us first and see if we can find another path for you. And when we do these rotational internships, there's 5 different tracks that they can go down. And I think that's, a big misconception about financial services. I think everybody's going to be, a salesperson, or have to be a financial planner, or have to be an operation. There's just so many ways that we can impact and be successful, within it. And so we really want to expose lots of different areas and encourage people to be curious about that. One other thing on this, Jamie, is we have our Rise to Innovation series at Carson. And every year we ask our internal stakeholders to come up with an idea that would either improve the client experience or allow the organization to become more efficient and productive at what we do. And they even write out what they think the benefit and the actual return on that investment would be. We had like 68, we've done this for 2 years now. Last year we had like 68 entries. Most of them did not come within their own department. They were looking at another department going, God, they do it this way. I think they ought to do it that way. And it's amazing that when you can remove yourself from the forest, just how much clearer you can see. And so that's been a huge success for Carson.
And so, Ron, another thing probably people are, and I know people are putting questions in, and I will get to all of those here at the end. We have time set aside for that. So the next part here is the building a brand. And this is, in the book tied to marketing overall, right? And at Carson now, we've got Judd Mackerel, who was running Mineral Interactive, was a CMO at Orion, came to Carson, has been, running a lot of our marketing. But building a brand is an interesting part. And I think that's the part that I always think about with you, right? Like I knew the Ron Carson brand before I knew the Ron Carson person, right? And, you've been very successful at that. Suzanne Syracuse, who was on our event yesterday and ran, right? Investment News, I think for 18 years around there as the CEO there and really started it and then ran it for a number of years, has told me, you've been one of the best out there at this building a brand in the financial services space and especially in the advisor side. So tell us a little bit about that side. I mean, one about the process of building it and why you also think brand is so important in kind of today's environment.
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little deeper than that. And Brock, you said live your life by design, not by default. The blueprinting process. I think so often we get caught up in just the day-to-day whirlwind that we don't really take enough time to sit back and say, what do I really want out of life, right? And get a little philosophical here. You know, for most of us, our business is not our life. Our business is a tool to help us do the things we want in our life. And, you know, and part of my brand is when you go to the end and you work backwards. You know, what's the mission? What's your personal mission statement look like? And then when you say, okay, here's what I stand for, here's what I want to have happen, here's what my mission statement is, then that starts to formulate what your brand should be. Like, for example, in Omaha, you know, Carson is well known for our community impact. We're very, very involved. And I think last count, 60 some, you know, charitable organizations. You talked about Dreamweaver, Brock, but it goes much, much deeper than that. And that brand actually attracts a certain kind of person to want to work as an internal stakeholder at Carson, also clients that want to work with Carson. I can tell you firsthand, we've had significant assets come in because people would seek us out because of our involvement in JDRF, our involvement in Dreamweaver, our involvement in, you know, the list goes on and on. So that is part of the brand. When they hear your name, they think about at least Carson and Omaha. What's the community? What's the impact? Everybody has a brand, and you want to be careful that you don't allow. So often we buy canned stuff that we put our name on. I remember early on, I had a newsletter, and the whole newsletter was written for me, and I put my picture on it, and I got to write like 100 words. And I read the newsletter, and I was like, man, this is not stuff I believe. This is not stuff I would say. And so here I am building a blank brand that's not even consistent with what I say. So make sure anything your name goes on, that you 100% believe it, or don't send it. And in a digital world, that stuff can never come back. You know, once it's out there, it's in the ether, you know, forever. You're right. Judd, Kim, they came in, and don't, you know, having a brand audit, having someone look at your brand and tell you who you mean and what you are in the market, I think is really helpful. When Judd and Kim, we had spent a lot of money with a marketing firm. We had built, you know, new websites. We had our brand new logo, and Judd and Kim said, you know, that's all great, but and they said, by the way, is there any sacred cows? And when we did the acquisition, I said, there's absolutely no sacred cows. I'm going to turn this over to you and run with this. Okay, we want to change all your websites and completely change your logo and the brand. And I'm like, really? It's almost like saying your kids are really ugly and not very smart, but you know, and so I was devastated, but I thought, you know what? I brought them in, and by the way, it was the greatest thing I could have done. You know, I did an okay job building the brand, but having someone understand who you are, what you mean in the marketplace, you know, really relying on a professional to help you communicate that both visually and through words and through actions is really critical. It takes some effort, but boy, when you have a strong brand, you will attract people that want to work with your organization and for your organization.
So shifting a little bit there is, you know, kind of tied in line with these, right? If we're building that 100-year business, you want to attract the right people. You want to have a business and brand that will last. You've got to have succession planning. And this is a big issue for advisors, right? We see this all the time, that they just don't have a plan in place. So there's a lot of things we've done differently, added, you know, but Ron, talk a little bit about just the succession planning and, you know, we have got this big wave of people, right, that are going to leave the industry, leave the profession, and really not necessarily have a great plan in place.
Yeah. The first question everybody on this call that's an owner of a business should ask themselves, if you were to die tonight, what you're leaving behind, the people, the process, the continuation of the business, i.e. your succession plan, are you so comfortable with the way everything's structured that you would entrust what's left behind to handle your loved one's wealth in your absence? It's a pretty powerful statement, right? And for a lot of people, that answer is no, you know, because they don't have a key person. They don't have protections in place, and they don't have a way to ensure that the continuation of the business would continue on. And so, you know, and by the way, it's really tough to know if you have an effective succession plan, because the truly only way you can know is to die and then look back 6 months after that. And that's just a tough test to run on your business, right? And so short of that, ask your advisory council. You know, I remember I thought I had Carson in a really good spot. And this has been, gosh, maybe 15 years ago. And I said, you know, if I were to die, would you all keep your money here? Every single person on my advisory council said I would be gone probably within 30 days. And one guy said I'd be gone the next day because everything revolves around you. Everybody goes through you. So part of having an effective succession plan, whether you're doing it internally or externally, that these introductions need to be made early on. So there's a protection of the value in the relationship and the value, you know, you want to protect your internal stakeholders. Obviously, you want to protect the clients, right, and our services, protect the internal stakeholders, and then ultimately the value that you're going to leave to your family. And these loose agreements, I hear about this all the time. There was an advisor in Salt Lake City, Utah, and this guy's, you know, it's called, this guy's saying is Larry. Larry says, I got an succession plan. I said, tell me about it. Well, this guy's across town. I said, well, because Larry was a stock picker. Well, how's this guy run his business? Well, I go investment wise, ETFs. What kind of, is he committed to financial planning? He absolutely is. Well, Larry wasn't committed to financial planning. He was a stock picker, and he hung his hat on investment performance. I said, have your clients ever met this person? No. But they were each other's succession plan. I can tell you with certainty, I know how that's going to go when he dies, right? They don't know him. There's completely different styles. So really putting some effort into this and getting to know the right kind of people is critical. And this isn't a commercial for partners, but if you look at Carson Partners and the 132 locations we have today, we first make sure there's a cultural fit. And I go around and do a welcome launch party for all of our new offices. So I meet, you know, a lot of our clients at these, and it doesn't matter whether I'm in California, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas, Florida, New York, Connecticut. The clients are really the same because we have the same kind of brand. We have the same kind of desire to give back to our communities. We really care about our clients. And so, you know, that's having that succession plan with people that are really comfortable with the people that are going to take their place is critical. So it's not just the paper, but you really have to put a lot of thought into what does this look like? And like I said, the litmus test is what you're going to leave behind. Are you comfortable enough with how it's going to operate that you would entrust your family's wealth in your absence?
Yeah, and Ron, I hear that it's in work or in progress a lot, right? I had 13 advisor CEO owners in a breakout room yesterday, and I think 6 of them said, well, it's in work, right? We're working on our succession plan. And that means it immediately fails, right? Like
Right.
any of them,
Yeah.
right? It wouldn't work, right? And there would be some degree of chaos and uncertainty and pain for the family members. So to me, that's one, you know, for something that we preach to a lot of our clients about how important it is, it's one of those areas that we don't take care of well enough for ourselves. Now, some firms have good systems, right? Said Carson does, you know, the Raymond James and some of the other in the world, right, have good systems internally. They have built-in succession. Doesn't mean the clients are going to be happy with it. But, you know, if you don't have that, I think it's a must, right? You have to take that away from today.
Yeah.
So we do have a fourth one here, and this one's important, and this is what, you know, to some degree what your story today has largely been a story of, right, is, you know, you being the advisor where everything ran through you from the advisor side, that the clients were there from you, and now you've shifted to, you know, I don't know the exact number of how many stakeholders we have, right, but, you know, you couldn't still be the day-to-day advisor anymore and have 200 plus stakeholders also reporting through you, and even how that's reporting has done and who talks to who, right? That's changed over time as the firm has grown.
Yeah. And let me just, you know, start with when you start off, and most of you started your business, you didn't have a single client, and you probably didn't have anybody, you know, on your team. It was just you. And you get to devote 100% of your time to being an advisor, and it's beautiful, right? You get to spend tons of time with your clients. You really go deep, you get to know them. and then, they refer you business. And so you're able to spend all the time on that. And as you grow, so does the complexity of the business. And all of a sudden, you need a CRM, and you need this, and you need that. And now you need more team members. And pretty soon you find yourself in this whirlwind of activity, but none of it is what you love. And most of it isn't what you love, because you're spending a lot less time with the clients, the reason you got into the business. And you're spending your time on stuff that's really not growing your business. And so like me, you hit this period where you're just not growing. And I do believe, by the way, and I talked about this in Sustainable Edge, that if you're not growing, you're dying. The investments you need to make back into your business, back into your people, that if you're not growing, at least, there was actually a Harvard study that said 15% a year, then that's the minimum growth rate in order to provide, a really healthy organization. And I think you have to, some advisors can decide, you know what, I'm going to be advisor because I have no desire to become the CEO. I want to be an accidental CEO. But there's a lot of advisors out there that go, you know what, I do want to grow. I am burnout on, having 3 or 4 meetings a day. And I would like to shift into the CEO. And for most of us that have been in business a long time, we have so much that we can teach. And the highest and best use of your time as a CEO is providing L&G, leadership and growth, leadership to the organization, also, dealing with centers of influence, also, large important relationships to the firm, and bring other people in, and making that shift and actually moving your clients to the next generation. Or at Carson, we've really gone the team route. So we have subject matter experts in every area. We have a lead advisor, we have an associate advisor, we have a customer service associate that's on that team. And the client really gets serviced even better than when I was doing it, the old way. But I think you have to decide. I say making the shift from advisor to CEO should really be making the shift to either really bring in a CEO, someone to think and run the business, or you make the shift yourself. And I can tell you, for the most part, really good advisors that have made that shift, you don't even realize all the knowledge you have that you can share with others, to really grow your organization.
That's fantastic. So paying attention to time here, I've got about maybe 4 or 5 more slides. I'll run through and then we'll take the questions. So I think that's
okay.
Good. And Brock, I don't know if you want to handle questions or me, but I'll just run through this and then you can.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And just a quick reminder, if people want to start putting questions in the chat dialogue box and or the Q&A, I'll do my best to monitor them, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys.
Great. So one of the things that, I make this before we go through the Q&A. So, and Ron had never seen these slides before. So that, I'm always happy when it kind of goes right. And these are some of the things we wanted to talk about, right? The aspect of community. And I saw our good friend Brian Money's on here and screenshot that one and posted it already. So that's awesome, right? But, this is a community. We're part of this community. We believe in it. The processes that you have in place, delivering value beyond a doubt, and then that leads to your ultimate success, whether it is an advisor or a CEO, whatever role you want to take on. Now, this is kind of a little interesting thing. It ties to a little this, and I've just been dropping it in different places because we just released this research at Carson, I think, 3 weeks ago now. And I don't have all the numbers on here. The whole report is actually 180 pages long, so that's my fault. That's all my research analysis in there. But we went through and surveyed over 1,000 clients out there and over 150 advisors and looked at their actions and what value was from a perceived standpoint from clients. And when you went out there and looked at this, what did you see? Well, at a very short answer, one of the things was more planning equals more value across the board. So if they had a written comprehensive plan in place, if they had the right amount of life insurance, if they had an estate plan, if they had long-term care, right? If they had a retirement income analysis done, guess what happened across the board? The clients perceive that the fee they paid for their advisor, right, was returning value. So the more planning you do with your clients, the more value that your clients see. Now, part of that is you say, hey, look, I'm really good. All my clients like me. In general, most clients like their advisors. If not, they leave, right? So they're either somewhat satisfied or highly satisfied with their advisor, or they leave. So most of your clients are probably in a good spot. And this research really said, what do you have to do to go from good to great? So if your why is I want to be a great advisor, you've got to look at those things. And I said one of the ones I got an email about today was interactions with your clients. A lot of people have those 2 annual meetings or touch points follow-ups. And what we saw is it actually needs to be 4 or more. And that's a challenge, right? So there's a huge break point at the 4 or more interactions with clients or less than 4. Clients that have 4 or more interactions feel more confident about retirement, better understand the fee structure, more satisfied with the advisor, more likely to receive value from them. And if you're doing everything for your firm and you're not putting these processes in place, you're not leveraging your community, you're not going to be able to do that, right? You're not going to be able to scale. And then here's the selfish part, right? What did we see all those things go to? All these clients that are higher up on that, more likely, right, to see that they're getting value, right, have those plans in place. Guess what they're more likely to do? They're more likely to refer that advisor. So if you want to build your practice based off of referrals as a piece of it, right, doing those extra steps, having the right processes in place so you can focus on your client, it brings in more referrals. So as I said, here, do you want to do a great job for your clients or do you want to have more referrals? Well, guess what? They're both aligned. If you do a great job for your clients, the data shows you'll get more referrals. So again, just a real quick, discussion on our Carson coaching, right? If you want to take some of these things you heard about today, put it into your practice with an executive business coach, reach out. As I said, we make this as easy as possible. Text 44222 Carson coaching, just all one word. I mean, we'll set you up with one of our coaches, just do a free call. We've had a lot of people doing that during this pandemic, and a lot of people are just calling and talking through the coach free for an hour, right? Spend time. We've got doctors, CFPs, right? Greg Opitz has been with the firm for a number of years, has coached thousands of people, was part of the CFP board too at one point. We have fantastic people. Jerry Herbison, probably many of you know from the CLF, an American College program. He joined as a full-time Carson coach. So again, text that, reach out, and then otherwise we'll go over some questions now. So we still have 12 minutes left. That was pretty close to my intended goal time. So I'll stop sharing this. Again, reach out to the coaching program. We'd love to help you. And then over to questions. Brock, I guess you've probably been monitoring these a little bit better. I can't see with the sharing.
No, all good. We're 3 guys. It's hard to multitask. I understand. So, we've got a little bit of a quiet group here today. So please, if you've got questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box or the Q&A. Just a couple of things. I mean, Jamie and Ron, first off, thank you. One of the things that you led off with was this study that said that you're sort of the culmination of the 5 people with whom you spend the most time. And I'll tell you, I've been in this industry now for 20 years, and there are certain people that I try to spend my time with because I always find myself just learning more and growing and sort of reflecting on my business. And the 2 of you are 2 of those people. And I really, really appreciate all you're doing. I'm a hockey guy too. So what I love is you're kind of always thinking about the Wayne Gretzky quote, where's the puck going and what's coming next? And it's not just, like in your book, you talk about, think about where you want to be 10 years from now and then reverse that. What's that mean? You've got to be in 5 years and 3 years and 1 year. And, I just love that vision and that thought leadership that the 2 of you provide. So a couple of other housekeeping things, and we'll get to questions. Just a reminder that tomorrow we've got a NAIFA Live event, guiding clients through market fluctuations. That's with Brian Dunham from Capital Group / the American Funds. And then also a Big Ideas webinar on June the 9th with Brian Walsh. If you don't know Brian Walsh's story, or if you do know Brian Walsh's story, join that webinar. That's at 2 p.m. on June the 9th. Just a compelling story and a guy who is just producing at really high levels in the industry. So please join us for both of those. Let's go to a couple of questions here. Sorry, Elena is correcting me that it's the NAIFA Town Hall that is tomorrow at noon. Thanks, Elena. So we got to get our descriptions right here. NAIFA Town Hall tomorrow at noon. Big Ideas webinar, June 9th at 2 p.m. Also, Jamie put in the chat dialogue box, feel free to follow us on Twitter. Also, Ron Carson is at RC Husker. I like that. And Jamie Hopkins is at Retirement Risks. And so we had one question that came in here, which is where to
books too. And
yeah, go for it. If you want to just answer, where can the books be found?
yeah, kind of two good things. One is obviously you can buy that on Amazon, probably the easiest way to go, to be honest. Judd Mackerel, who we've mentioned a couple times, I think we explained who he is, but he's on Twitter too, at Judd Mackerel. He's giving away 10 free books this week, so that you could buy it, or if you engage with Judd on Twitter, so that's a great way to get a free book right now. He's giving them out. Just you'll see his post is, hey, tell us something you learned this year, and we'll send you the book. So yeah, that's a great one. And then Ron, where is the audio book? I know people have been asking.
Yeah, so you can go to Amazon. It's on Audible. And just it's easy. And a matter of fact, if you don't have an Audible account, you get the first book for free. And it's almost 8 hours of material. And I never realized how hard it was to narrate a book. So it probably took me, 50 hours of reading to get to that 8 hours. So, but I hope you enjoy I've gotten some really good feedback on the audio portion and the bonus material in there.
Love it. Here's a question from Conrad Slate, who says, assuming one is a comprehensive planner and not just a salesperson, how many client relationships have you found as realistic or optimal for each planner?
Personally, Brock, I think that has to do with how many subject matter experts do you have? And I just did a thing on, the difference between manipulation and professional persuasion. We're all salespeople, right? We're all selling, trust, and can we do what we say we're going to do? The reason salespeople get a bad rap, there's plenty of people out there selling things they can't do or manipulating people. So, I always think it's an honorable profession to be a salesperson. But as far as the number goes, I mean, if you're a one-man band and you're doing it all, obviously that number is probably pretty small, maybe 25, real relationships if you're going deep. If you've got a comprehensive team and all you're doing is coordinating, and you have a CFP, and you've got a trust officer, and you've got an attorney, and you've got a CPA, and you've got, those people already on your team, and you're handling the relationship, that number is probably 100, relationships. But so it's a huge range, but it really depends on the structure of your organization.
Yeah, and I would agree with Ron on that one. I think a well-run business, a good starting point is at 100. If you're really doing comprehensive planning, we see some people try to push that to 150, 180, and they really start to struggle. We see partners with that, and that's a challenge. Now, again, it means how much of that are you taking on? Are you just the relationship person? You're not running the plan. You're not doing the investment. And that starts changing the dynamics. But that 100 is a good note. If you want to get really deep, right? If you look at family offices, right, they want to get really deep, and they might have 5 to 20, right? If you're going to do everything, that's a very small group.
I love the one of your research, Jamie, where it was more important that they put their interests first versus being a fiduciary. Because and we all know fiduciary is the highest calling and the highest standard. But imagine an advisor, and we run into these all the time. The advisor is the portfolio manager. The advisor is a research analyst. The advisor is a planner. The advisor does everything, and they call themselves a fiduciary. And I don't believe you can be a fiduciary if you're not being able to be proactive and really stay out ahead of the client's needs. And I will say, and we've made a huge investment on this at Carson, is artificial intelligence is going to solve a lot of this. I mean, we're releasing some stuff this week to our partners that, one is going to scan the tax return and give you very specific actionable ideas. And remember that, because if there's tax changes, it will also cue that. Now we don't have to remember that. We don't have to prepare the return. So to the degree you have clean data in a data warehouse, you're going to be able to consume some of these really cool technologies that are going to do a lot of this for you. And that will dramatically expand, even if you're a one-man band, will dramatically expand the number of people that you can be a true fiduciary to and be very proactive with.
Yeah, and I'll just throw out there too, I know a lot of the discussion, both in Tested in the Trenches and in Proven in the Trenches, revolves around segmenting clients and making sure that you're focused on your top clients and that type of thing. And I think and Ron and I have a couple mutual friends, Mark Moses and Bill Whitehead, and talked with them about, just by segmenting, how it frees up your time to be focused on your best clients, right? And I think that's great advice. There's also, you haven't mentioned it, but Proven in the Trenches also has a corresponding workbook that goes through a lot of this stuff that I think is super helpful. Jose has a question. Besides all that you bring to the table, what part of your business productivity system stands out the most and gives you the best results?
I'll give one that's super simple that I came up with years ago, and it's called the 100 Items to Delegate. And there was another system. I don't even think it's being used today, Jamie. I came up with a thing called productivity management system, and you assign points to what I called high value activities. And then the challenge was to have so many points each week. And so you got so many points for meeting with an A+ client in person. You got less points for doing a telephone call with that person, or a prospect, or a plan, or updating the plan. But something very simple is the 100 items to delegate. Although, Jamie, this could be something you guys could pull back out and reintroduce. There was a direct correlation to your score and the revenue, because it forces you not to spend your dollar time on penny activities.
Yeah, the 100 items to delegate, we just put that in the new branded template, like literally last week, which is going in our new coaching online system July 1. So yeah, that's been updated. It's there, still using it. I would also, I'll just add one to there. It's a little bit different from the system, but just something we're seeing. You said get the best results right now. Don't shy away from doing, webinar live events right now for clients. We had people that, advisors that have paused on that with this, but this is a great opportunity for that. We've had partners that, got over 7 million, and part of that strategy was that just, was that a month ago. So we're seeing really good outcomes with that. So definitely leverage that opportunity now. I think live in-person client events are going to be tough for a while. Not that you can't run them, but I think turnout's going to be lower. So definitely utilize technology for that. It is working. We're seeing success on that. So if you're trying to grow your business, don't forget those things at this time when it's easy, when you have so much going on.
Yeah, and I think I'm thinking back, we were talking about this before this webinar started. I mean, there's some silver linings here. Coronavirus has been a little bit of a disruption to our industry, but what can we as advisors take from that, build into the future that is going to be more efficient, more effective for each of us moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's interesting. We got like 2 more minutes. As the first question came in and mentioned the salesperson, I've at least made it to page 3 of Proven in the Trenches, but I just love this because it's fascinating. Research suggests that up to 65% of investors don't trust financial services providers to some degree, while our industry still ranks among the least trusted institutions alongside car salesmen, members of Congress, and the media. And I've heard Ron say in the past, if that doesn't piss you off, you're not paying attention, right? So I think it's, let's do things the right way, follow a systematized process. Jamie also put in the chat box here, I just want to bring it to everybody's attention, complimentary coaching call text number for those that asked. If you just want to text to 44222, Carson Coaching. Is that, Jamie, just text Carson Coaching to that 44222?
Yep.
And I don't let me put words in your mouth, but that's a free 1-hour coaching call.
That's correct. Yeah, we've been doing that since kind of the pandemic started, just as kind of an offering out there to, our community.
Perfect. Well, hey, it's 1:00 in the East on my watch here. So want to start on time and end on time. Again, Ron, Jamie, as always, thank you very, very much. Always fascinating. Always gained so much. Really appreciate you being here with NAIFA Nation today. Again, join us tomorrow at noon for the American Funds session for the NAIFA Town Hall, and again on June the 9th for the Big Ideas webinar. Everybody, thanks so much. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe.
Thank you.